Hello and welcome to the Empress podcast. I am your host, Jessica, known in the online space as Jess the Empress. I started this podcast to help you be present with yourself, cope with chaos, and simplify your life. I do this by combining psychology, behavioral science, and the tarot. I have a background in mental health, specifically a master's in clinical social work from USC, and I'm a professional tarot reader. So get ready to have a nurturing, creative, and empowering experience with me as we use practical magic. Hey, hi, hello. What's up? What's up? It's your girl Jess. I am back with you on the podcast. It's really good to be here with you today. I have been thinking a lot about something that has been keeping me up a little bit. It's been keeping my friends up. It's probably been keeping you up. And it's just that feeling like we're living through one disaster after another, and it's so hard to kind of like stay grounded. But we're going to talk about staying grounded and staying centered today on the podcast. But hopefully, you know what I mean. I know I'm not the only one spiraling out, but this is definitely for those of you that are just trying to get a sense of clarity and look ahead, but feeling like it's a real challenge to make sense of anything. Okay. I would like to quickly clarify that when we're getting centered and when we're focusing on the things that matter to us, this is not about sticking our heads in the sand and acting like we're putting blinders on to all of the noise in the world. I mean, we have to stay engaged in order to make informed decisions, right? So, an informed decision means we are aware of the information that's out there, but we have to do it in a way that's balanced because otherwise, we're going to lose our minds. So, just wanted to clarify that before we hopped in. And I also think it's really important to open up by talking about like what is happening with our brains when we start to spiral out mentally. Our brains, they were designed to scan for stress. They do this automatically. So this isn't something that you can really turn off. Back in the day, when there were like lions and tigers and bears around, we were, a little bit more vulnerable as a species, and we needed to be watchful for these animals because obviously they were a threat to us. So this like scanning for threats is a survival mechanism of the brain. But what's so interesting about media, marketing, I would even say like these Amazon flash sale things you get in your email, those all trigger that same part of the brain, that survival part of the brain. And yes, I know that getting the next thing on Amazon, just like getting the next thing on Amazon, our survival is not dependent on that. Yet, it's still triggering us in a way that makes us feel like it is. It's the same thing with all this stuff that comes across, like breaking news. So and so did this, so and so said that. I would even say maybe some of the more entertainment based stuff with celebrities that can also kind of kick up that fight, flight, freeze, those alerts. Um, the real thing is, though, like what's happening in our body is it's creating a lot of stress hormones and it's putting us in a place where it's all pent up and we don't have a real good place to release it. And that is a recipe for anxiety, for depression, and just for feeling really overwhelmed. I also want to say this, you're not like overreacting because you're upset about something that's happening with the stock market or with the news. Maybe you're overreacting if you're focused like on the celebrity lifestyle. Look, I've said this a million times. I love celebrity gossip, but I try not to get too overly invested because I don't know these people and ultimately it doesn't matter. It's just fun. But what I'm saying is there's like a natural response that you're supposed to be having. So if you're having this response, what that tells me is that your mind body connection is actually working perfectly fine. But just because you're having a perfectly fine response doesn't mean that it's a good thing given the circumstances. Hey there, coffee lovers. Are you tired of settling for boring coffee? I have a treat for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Heartwork Coffee Bar, your one-stop destination for exceptional coffee experiences. Whether you're a coffee connoisseur or just someone who appreciates a great cup of joe, Heartwork Coffee Bar is here to elevate your coffee game to new heights. At Heartwork Coffee Bar, they take pride in their craft because each batch is carefully roasted to perfection, ensuring that every sip is a symphony of flavor. From the rich and the robust to the light and fruity, they have a coffee blend for every palate. And here's the best part. For you amazing podcast listeners, Heartwork Coffee Bar is offering an exclusive 10% discount on your purchase. Just use the code Empress10 at checkout and you'll save big on your order. Why settle for ordinary when you can indulge in the extraordinary coffee from Heartwork Coffee Bar? Remember to use code Empress10 for that special 10% discount and treat yourself to the coffee experience that you deserve. Don't miss out on this fantastic offer. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks to Heartwork Coffee Bar for making today's episode possible. Now go grab your favorite mug, brew a fresh cup, and enjoy the podcast with the perfect companion, Heartwork Coffee Bar. Cheers. And this is where the art of being present can make a difference. And it's so interesting because so many of us, we don't want to be present because we believe that the present moment contains all of this fear and worry and pain. But the reality is, if we're caught up in our minds and we're always thinking about the future and we're just looking at every alert coming across, we're already in a painful state, right? We're already in some weird form of suffering because we're not actually breathing. We're not actually coming out of that flight, freeze. I'll say that right one time. We're we're stuck, right? And so that means that slowing down is a way to shift our mind and body state and make it a lot more peaceful and a lot more calm. And I feel like that's what so many of us want, but we just don't know how to do it. But like everything, we're going to keep this practical because I'm a practical girly. I feel like a lot of you that listen are also practical, or you're just looking to make your life more practical. I know sometimes in like the self-help spiritual spaces, things can be very complicated, and I find that to be very unnecessary. So let's dive in. Let's dive in with scenario one. Okay, so this is the morning doom scroll. I've had several clients tell me about this. I personally don't look at the news in the morning, but because I know so many of you do, I thought this would be a really good example. So let me paint the picture that might sound familiar. You wake up and you reach for your phone, and before your feet even hit the floor, you're reading about some new crisis. Maybe it's some political drama, environmental concerns, or international tensions. Whatever it is, suddenly your day has this dark cloud hanging over it before your day has actually even begun. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense up, and your mind starts racing with the worst case scenarios. How is this going to affect my kids? What about their future? What does this mean for my job security? Is there any point in planning ahead? And before you know it, you've spent 45 minutes stressing out about things entirely out of your control. And now you're rushing to get ready, already feeling defeated by the day. If this sounds like you, then the practical shift is to do this instead. Create a morning buffer zone. For the first 30 minutes of your day, keep your phone on Do Not Disturb. Instead, focus on setting an intention for the day ahead. Maybe that's enjoying your cup of coffee while you're looking out of the window. Maybe it's doing some gentle stretching or just sitting quietly for a little bit. You could do some journaling. When you do go to check the news, because I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying, give it a buffer. Try to set a timer for like 10 minutes. Get informed, but don't let it swallow your entire morning up. And then write down one concrete action step that you can take today that aligns with your values. So maybe it is about sending a message to someone that you really love. Maybe it's making a small donation. Maybe it's just being really kind to people throughout the day in your regular interactions. And what this shift in particular does is it moves you from this passive consumer of information to active engagement. Trust me, like The active engagement piece is huge. I love pulling tarot cards in the morning. That shouldn't shock anybody. I love journaling in the morning. I have a cortado with the love of my life every morning. And I really try to be as present as possible in those moments, especially when I get to take the dogs out and go for a little walk. And sometimes my mornings, they still have a rush behind them. But what I've also noticed is that because I've built this habit in, even if I have to hop on a meeting, let's say first thing in the morning, after that meeting, I will then go do the things that I would normally do and enjoy that buffer, that coffee, that journaling moments to myself, and then getting deeper in my intention setting. All right. So maybe the first one didn't resonate with you, but maybe the second scenario will. You're at work and you take a quick break and you see a notification about something that has piqued your interest. Maybe it's a little troubling. You click on it, and then all of a sudden, you are in a rabbit hole of all this crazy, concerning information. Your mind starts spinning with all those worst case scenarios. And even though your body is still sitting at your desk or at your lunch table, your attention is like miles away. It's caught up in a web of what ifs. Then your colleague asks you a question, but you didn't even realize that you've been staring at your phone for like 20 minutes, totally checked out. Now you're behind at work, you're feeling anxious, you didn't even really get to enjoy your lunch or digest it properly. And now you're also feeling guilty about that. So it's like a triple whammy. You're just like feeling really, really crappy. There's another technique that's really helpful. I use this one all the time, but it is the five grounding. It is the feet, seat, hands grounding technique. Similar to the five senses grounding, but a little bit quicker, which is nice. So, when you're noticing yourself spinning out, you just want to take a moment to feel your feet on the floor. That's that grounding practice of really connecting with the earth beneath your feet. And then notice the sensation of the seat that you're sitting in. How do you actually feel? And then bring your awareness to your hands. What are they touching? Sometimes I intentionally like to just actually massage my hands. I feel like for me anyway, they do a lot of typing and a lot of work during the day. And so just that moment to kind of connect in and give myself a little love feels really, really good and really restorative and helps me with that mindset shift. So, you might want to set aside times to go look at the news. Again, maybe not during your lunch break. I know it's easy to do because you're detaching from whatever you've been switched on in work mode. But really, this is a break. This is not a time to process more information. You just finished processing work information. So you don't have to constantly check, especially if you make batches of, okay, I'll do it at, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., whatever feels right for you. But what I'm saying is though, is you're creating boundaries. That's essentially all that those slotted times are. It's just boundaries. And you're holding yourself to a higher standard of sticking to checking the news within those allotted times. And now for the third scenario. You're having dinner with some family or friends, and the conversation turns to current events. Dun, dun, dun. Before you know it, voices are raised, tensions are high, and everyone is feeling awful. Or maybe it's more subtle. Maybe you're just kind of mentally rehearsing the things that you would want to say. Um, you're worried about issues, but you're totally missing the connection from people right in front of you because you're so in your head. So you can't even enjoy the dinner that you have with others. It's a rare chance, I think, today when everybody can really be together. For those of you moms and dads that have kids grow up so fast. And I would hate to know that you look back and you realize like, gosh, I was really just in my head about things that I couldn't control instead of just laughing over, whatever was happening in the present moment with my kids at the dinner table. So before you have a social gathering, just try setting an intention for how you want to be present with other people and maybe decide which topics are off limits or just agree to like a code or something that someone can say if the conversation starts moving in a direction that just feels a little too heated. You can also practice the skill of genuine curiosity. This is all about, asking people what's going on in their lives, their day to day experiences, and their interests. Creating a space for laughter and sharing is so important. We are missing that today. We are missing it in society. I think it's truly only going to happen in a heart to heart connection, but you have to really build that into your life and give that to everybody else that's around you so that they can keep building that in the lives of people that are around them as well. Especially because, these connections, they help us when times get tough and times are already really hard. So why wouldn't we want to have more people to help us cope with the wildness of life? I think the other thing too is, let's, for example, say you're not in a place to control the narrative of the conversation, then getting, again, really curious, but getting curious from a space of just listening and not responding. So you don't have to listen to really like overly empathize with people, but you can listen to just hear kind of like where they're at and understand how they came to that perspective. It can help you, think about things in a little bit more of a broad way, in a more compassionate way, while still reserving your energy so you're not engaging in a fight. These are just three scenarios, but the skills that they highlight can be applied all throughout your day. And the beautiful thing is, the more you practice being present, the more naturally it comes. And the more often, when you're in your home base, when you're present, when you start to leave that presence, you'll feel that. You'll feel a call towards wanting to be more peaceful and wanting to be more grounded. So I really feel like presence just continues to reinforce itself because you'll feel like something is off and you won't feel as good, essentially. Think of presence as a muscle that you can strengthen. Each time you notice that you're spinning out, just bring yourself back to the present moment. It's like, doing a rep at the mental gym. In the moment, it probably doesn't feel great and it doesn't feel like you're doing much. But over time, I promise you, you're building a superpower. Being present is a superpower because in that space, you really are your most true self, not the weird future version of you that is, living through all these experiences you have racing in your mind, but the version of you that's here right now, just living and breathing with the sun on you, with the chimes in the background as I'm hearing them, and just feeling kind of okay, in your body. Let's keep going with some of these daily practices, okay? So we can do 3 deep breaths throughout the day. I love this one. I usually do this after I finish a meeting with people, in between sending emails and building stuff out for social media. It's exactly as it sounds. It's just 3 breaths. So you're just constantly, you're just consciously connecting with your inhale and exhale for 3 breaths. The purpose of this is just to create some space between you, the individual, and you, the doer of all of the things. When you're just taking space, you're allowing yourself to exist in the moment without having to be proactive, without having to solve a problem. You're just existing in a few 3 breaths of peace. And that's a really beautiful place to be. The next thing is a sensory check in. So, this is the 5 senses that I was talking about. So, it's 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and then 1 thing that you can taste. All of this will help your spinning thoughts. It'll help you have a direct experience with the here and now, which is, again, very grounding. And then the last thing is gratitude. I mean, the attitude of gratitude goes a long way. When we're looking at the worst case scenarios, we're usually not grateful at all because we're thinking nothing is working out and everything is horrible. And so when we can get real about where we are and what we have, we can often have a greater perspective of what matters. And gratitude, I feel like, is the access into what really matters, what are our individual values that we can, yeah, reinforce through action. So let's shift into a few closing thoughts. I'm not going to tell you that practicing presence is going to solve all of your problems or all of the world's problems because it won't. I mean, the challenges that we're facing, they're real. It's okay to care really deeply about them. But I also know this for sure. You, me, everybody, we all deserve to experience joy, connection, and peace, even if the world is on fire. I think that those qualities become even more precious when things are difficult. And I feel like it's why I value them and I value protecting them. Being present is not about ignoring reality. It's about engaging with it in a way that allows you to bring your best self to whatever situation it is that you're facing. Because let's be honest, nobody really makes good decisions from that place of panic and overwhelm. There are certain systems that are put in place that's the spaces that they want you to be in making decisions because it only benefits them and it doesn't benefit you. And the truth is, the quality of our lives is so much largely determined by the quality of our attention. And while we cannot control much of what is happening in the world, we can absolutely practice choosing where we place our attention. So much of the media, the marketing, the scamming at large that's happening has a lot to do with our attention and getting our attention. It is like the new currency. I've heard someone say that and it's really stuck with me. So if you haven't heard that, think about your attention as currency. What are you investing in? And if it's not in you, if it's not in your dreams, if it's not in your goals and your plans, baby, what? You're putting your investment in other people's bank accounts? Ew, ew, girl, ew. No. The next time that you start to feel that spiral starting, just remember, you have the ability to pause and you can breathe and you can come back to the present moment. Not perfectly, not all the time, but with your practice, you will be present more and more often. You've got this. I'm here for you. I'm also breathing one breath at a time. I'm taking it one moment at a time and one day at a time. If you found this useful, please send me a message. I would love to chat with you. I love reading your comments. Share it with somebody who you know needs to chill out and needs to really work on being present, but just needs to hear it from a sassy girl like me. I can't wait to talk to you soon. Bye. I want to ask you to rate and review my podcast. Giving me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts would mean the world to me. I love knowing who's listening and what everyone is getting from the episode, so please take a moment of your time to share your thoughts, and I look forward to reading your reviews soon.